Going to open the Port of Siuslaw Commission meeting for Wednesday, February 17th at 7 p.m. First, Commissioners, we have approval of the agenda. Anybody have any issues with the agenda? During silence, I presume that is a no, and we will move on to financial statements.
No, we have, well, there are no
Oh, is everybody signed up?
remarks tonight.
No remarks from the citizens, so we will go on to the financials now.
Okay, Bill.
Okay, looking over the, there are a number of different statements, financial statements in this report, and they all say something slightly different. And I know they're all consistent because I did them myself, but unless your attention is called to certain aspects of these statements, they can be a little bit ambiguous. And I'd like to turn first to page 12. It's your budget and actual statement. Okay, so everybody's got page 12 in front of them?
Yes.
Okay, what page 12 is your budgetary basis operating statement. And that's without the breakout of long-term debt or the fixed assets. That's actually comes close to what you spent on a modified accrual basis. That is, if you're owed some money, say for your rentals or leaseholds or so on, the accrued amount is in there. And if you happen to incur some expenses that haven't had an immediate cash payment, those are in there. So I would say this statement on an annual basis is probably the most complete statement of what you did. And if you look toward the bottom of the page, you'll see net change in revenues over under expenditures. And you had an excess of $68,763 that carried into your carry forward fund balance. The rest of this takes us to your full accrual statements, which includes the long-term debt and the fixed assets and such at the bottom. But you actually, in sort of real cash or near cash terms, improved your position by $68,763. Okay. And you also stayed within your budgeted appropriated amounts. And that's also good news. You can see under the expenditures that your budgeted amounts were in every category over the actual amounts. Okay, any questions on that statement? Okay, we're okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, now, I noticed something rather interesting. If you turn to page 3, this is the statement of cash flows. So this is only concerned with cash, okay? And you notice that toward the middle of the page, the net increase in cash is $139,383. Now, before we proceed to the next set of statements, your cash increased by that much, but that doesn't all belong to you. A good bit of it is tied up in unearned revenue, for people who made campground reservations and paid up front. And I believe at that time, some people were making reservations and making deposits 2 years in advance or a year and a half in advance. And understand that's been changed.
Yes.
So if you look at that increased in unearned revenue, that's $41,000. Okay, so that shows you how your cash increased. And then we'll turn, I think probably the best schedule for this is on little Roman numeral 2 in the management discussion and analysis. And here and on the next page, little Roman numeral 3, we have comparative statements for your balance sheet and your income statement. And your net equity position at the bottom of page Roman numeral 2. The total net position, that actually went down a little bit, but realize that includes depreciation expense, which is some $428,526. So when you look at the full accrual basis, yeah, it went down a little bit, but most of that is due to depreciation expense, which of course is a non-cash charge. And the interesting thing about the depreciation expense, it's allocated. We assign certain of your assets a useful life, and we divide the value of the asset by the useful life, and we come up with annual depreciation. And so even though it's a non-cash charge, in a long term, and some of these assets are depreciated over 40 years, it is a real expense because you are using up those assets in your operations. That is the wharf. Looks great now. It's in wonderful shape. But what's it going to look like in 40 years? So you would expect for there to be some degradation in the asset as it's used up over time. I would say by and large, your results of operations were pretty much the same as they were last year. Accountants like to see consistency. That's our big thing, consistency from one year to the next. We don't like surprises. So are there any questions on the financials? Anything that piques your interest? Okay, and the next thing I'd like to call your attention to, this page Roman numeral 4 and Roman numeral 6. These are some schedules, graphs that I suggested you add to the management discussion and analysis. And the first one on page 4, Roman numeral 4, shows the spread between operating revenue and operating expense. Now realize your operating revenue consists of rentals, campground rentals, the leases, the storage units and so on. And that gap is by and large filled with from property tax collections. So about half of your total revenues come from charges and about half from property taxes. And sometimes you also have grants, operating grants, like from the Oregon Marine Board and so on. And if you have large construction projects, of course, you have these substantial construction grants that usually come from the state. So it seems like you're maintaining more or less, from one year to the next, at least in the last few years, a kind of constant spread between your operating revenues and your operating expenses. And then when we go to page 6, I know you're concerned about the balance of your long-term debt. And Roman numeral 6, there's a chart that has the balance of long-term debt at 6/30 for 2016, 17, 18, 19, and 20. And you do have a substantial drop in 4 years going forward, but I believe most of that substantial drop assumes that the loan at Banner Bank is going to be paid down, and that may or may not be rolled forward. So, and then of course going beyond that, you really begin to take big chunks out of your, more substantial loans. Okay, well, that's all I had on my mind. Have any questions?
I don't have any questions.
I think I have a question, Bill. When you say our debt on the Pacific View property, are our monthly payments bringing that down, or we're assuming that we're going to sell that?
Okay. No. No sales are assumed. I mean, if you have a sale and you can pay down the debt, then it will pay down much faster. Basically, this has to do with your principal payments.
Copy.
And all of that, those principal payments are in your loan agreements and accompanying amortization schedules.
So with the sale of the property, we could reduce that debt,
Oh, yes, oh, yes.
eliminate.
And I think that's in the plan.
You want to buy
As I
it?
understand the plan.
You want to buy it?
Well, no, I think I already got enough property myself.
Always worth a try.
I'm
Thank you.
trying to reduce some of my rental properties right now. Actually, I would say probably, quite possibly, the next few years would be very good for the real estate market. So that's just my opinion.
Bill, do you see any areas that we need to work on to help make us more profitable?
Well, there's always the issue of are your rents set at an appropriate market level. Sometimes this is more art than science, but I would certainly review the rentals on the campground, on the properties, along the waterfront, on the storage units to see that they're at an appropriate market level. That's the only way I can think of increasing the revenue, except for marketing those properties that you have for sale.
Anybody have anything else?
Thank you.
Good?
All right, Bill, thank you very much for
Thank you
your
very much, Bill.
presentation.
Okay.
I think you can take the rest of the night off.
Now, boy, the first time I've tried it this way, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
It worked well. Okay,
Okay.
good
thank
night.
you.
Thank you. Thank you, Terry. Okay, next item is financial statements, ratified bills. Does everybody have a chance to look over the financials?
I've got a couple of things to mention.
Good.
One thing, my first thing is that on the amount of bills paid in January of $111,000, I wanted to point out that $47,000 of that was our insurance, our annual insurance payment. for-
SDAO.
Yes. So without that amount, our bills paid were more in the ballpark of $64,000.
That's good, because I was curious about the bump in that.
And there's also a new report, or a revised report. A few months ago, Nancy requested the profit and loss budget, previous year comparison report, which in the last few months I've had in detail format. I sent this to her in a condensed format, and if you look, it's the report that follows the balance sheet. I think it's just a little bit easier to read, and it gives a better bottom line.
This is the profit and loss one.
No, that's, the profit and loss that's in the several pages is the variance report. This is a profit and loss, it looks like this,
Oh, this one, all right.
yeah. So it's the same report you've been getting in previous months, but it's more of a condensed version of it. And it just shows the main categories in the income and expense. And shows the comparison between, the first column is this year to date, the second column is last year, July 1 through January 31. And the third column is your dollar amount in change and your percentage of change, so. Just wanted to point that out.
I had a question on one Visa charge that was for some jeans and boots.
That, we have just, we have a question on that as well. And so we contacted our credit card company today, and we're disputing that.
Okay, I would think so.
Yeah.
Either that or someone's dressing awfully good around here.
That was a mystery transaction that we are
Yeah.
investigating right now.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on the financials? Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, is been a motion and approved and a second to ratify the bills of $111,690.11. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, we will move on to new business. Item number 1, Resolution 2-17-68, authorizing an SDAO grant and appropriate funds. Which one do you want to speak on that?
Yeah, I'll speak on this one.
Okay.
We're withdrawing the motion at this time. This was for the gravel to repair some drainage issues out in the, between the two blue buildings. And Commissioner Dumont and Jason and I went out after, we had some questions about whether or not the grant would actually fix the problem. And we decided in consultation between the three of us that it was gonna cost too much and probably not fix the problem. So we called SDAO and asked if instead of using the money for gravel, if we can use it for security cameras. And so they, the next day, approved that, and we'll put in security cameras now over the area where the two sea lions are gonna go. And Rick tells me that we'll have that up in time, in plenty of time. So we're withdrawing this motion. Next month, we'll replace that with the appropriate motion for the security cameras.
Okay. We'll go to item number 2, Resolution 2-17-16B, adopting an Oregon ethics law policy.
I have a few things to say here. Today I received a phone call from the attorney's office who's had a chance to review this policy. This policy originally came to us from SDAO, and when the attorneys looked at it, they found just a few areas of vague language that they wanted to revise and tighten up a little bit. So she sent me a revised copy, but that was right around 5 o'clock this afternoon, and Stephen has not had an opportunity to review that. So we would like to propose that we withdraw this resolution and postpone it to the next meeting as well.
Okay, do we need to vote on that?
No, we do not.
Okay, any other discussion, commissioners? Okay, item number 3, approve the port manager's request for benefits to start March 1st. Anybody want to talk on that, or you want me to talk on it?
Wait, but it's your turn, Ron.
Okay, I'm not sure when the benefits usually start for the new port manager. I think it's the 90 days.
It's 3 months.
Yeah, but I found out that with the Affordable Care Act, there's a new law in place that's 60 days.
60 days.
Right.
And we have a request from the manager to start it at 30 days.
Yes.
And before the commissioners, and it's in the budget, and I would like to see approval of it. And any other discussion?
All right, clarify that for me. You're requesting earlier coverage, is that what we're talking about?
That's exactly right, for health benefits.
Contractually, originally, what did we say?
60 days.
And we need,
And then this will be at 30 days instead of
90.
60.
was originally 60 or 90?
90.
It was 90, and then when I was just discussing this with our SDAO insurance representative, she informed me that that's something that we do need to revise in our personnel policies.
Is that because of the
90 to
Affordable
60.
Care Act?
Because
Yes.
it's a mandatory
Yes.
coverage.
Well, the 60 is not the 30, right? That's
Right.
what we
Right,
said.
that's
Okay.
correct.
Anybody like to make a motion?
I move that we approve the port manager request for benefits that would start March 1st, 2016.
Do I hear a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, that has passed. Okay, time for reports. I don't think I have a whole lot to report. Nancy, I imagine you have a couple things.
A few, just more of the city's meetings. The Main Street, still working on that. Attended the mayor's State of the City, which was well received and well attended. It was very nice. The watershed meeting on the 27th of January, I met the new director, Dan Carpenter, and he would like to come and speak to the port meeting sometime in the future and get to know people. And there was an all-community, there were 2 events, one at Mapleton and one here at the event center, and this is on vision for the entire area. There are a lot of people that are working on trying to get new jobs here, trying to support businesses that are here and make things livable. And I went to the Lane Act, this was the 10th in Eugene or Springfield, and David, can't remember his last name, he is not going to be staying with the Lane Act Transportation.
Yes,
He's the
yes.
one who came here and had 2 open house meetings about the bridge. He's going to be working for the county. And then yesterday was economic development with the city again that I just sit in on.
Okay.
And they have these flyers that they're putting out, that they're having another big open house. They're making an effort to help businesses try to generate new business. And that's it.
Excellent, thank you, Nancy. Any other commissioners?
I had a chance several weeks ago to attend the Oregon Coast Zone Management meeting. I feel it's an organization that we should send our $500 to every year, and we should support. But these meetings are run by politicians and paid political actions. I felt like fish out of water. I mean, and I understood all the subjects they were talking about. They talked everything from global warming to the trends in the ocean and the tidal actions. And but you have one House of Representatives speaker talking to another House of and it just, I do believe that we need to support that. Our involvement, I tell you, I'd have a hard time wanting to go back. So if any other commission would like to volunteer, I'd suggest that they can do so. But it is I think that every topic they talked about, they never talked about dredging. I think the conversation come up a little bit, but we ran short on time. Everything they do involves us, but do we have a say? No, not really. You know, it's political groups like this going at each other. And engineers and scientists, very educated. I mean, I've literally felt like fish out of water there. But I think it's everything that every commissioner, you probably ought to experience it, so if someone else would like to sign up.
What are you looking at me for? We'll see. There is we remember the Pacific Northwest Waterways Association, and every year they have a meeting in Washington, D.C., and we have chosen not to go this year. Hopefully we will go again next year. We did go last year, and I think it helped us get money for dredging. But once again this year, we've got over $800,000 for dredging in our river, thanks to Peter DeFazio and our other senators. So that is a good thing, and I think we have they have a conference like coming up, either in Spring River or in Sun River, or I think there's one in Portland, but I think I'd like to skip the one in Portland. It has mostly to do with the Port of Portland and the Columbia dams and thing, but we might go to the one in Sun River and see what's happening there.
Is that one
Okay.
in March?
I think it's in
coming
March,
up
yeah.
pretty soon.
Yeah, coming up soon. Okay, I think it's time that we let the public hear from the manager.
Yep.
Oh,
Our new port
All right.
manager, Stephen Leskin. We're happy to have him here. The floor is yours,
all right,
Stephen.
thanks for the introduction. So it's been a busy couple of weeks here at Port of Siuslaw. Some of the things that we've been involved with that haven't been reported on, that haven't spoken about, include my involvement with the Abandoned and Derelict Vessel Task Force. OSNB is putting together a task force to deal with recreational and commercial vessels. I'm on that task force. And last 2 weeks ago was the organizational meeting. So we were there. There are a lot of ports at that meeting, so I think some of the ports will thin out, and there'll probably just be one or two ports on that. And I'm not sure if it will be me or somebody else. Went down to the South Coast Development Council meeting in Coos Bay, and connected with Connie Stouffer, who I've met before. I think that would be a great organization to join. We'll get her efforts and her organization's help marketing the Back 40. And so I'm meeting with her here in 2 weeks, and I'll have her back to make a presentation to the board at some point, or to the commission at some point. What she'll bring to the table is a lot of connections, and people contact their organization looking for business opportunities on the South Coast. So I think that would be a good fit. Jack Aiken is a marine engineer. He was out last Friday, and we met to discuss erosion control, bulkhead repairs, and dredging. I remember during our interview there was a lot of talk about the state of the bulkhead, And I think that I'm gonna come back and revise my comments, having been here for 3 weeks now, about the state of the bulkheads. Apparently, they're in deeper disrepair than the commission realizes. So we'll come back to that, but the talk is to figure out how to bioengineer a solution to the erosion behind Sea-Row. Sea-Row's got some pretty profound erosion. I had Rick pull some historical images so we can calculate how much we've lost, and there'll be a presentation at the next commission meeting on that, and I'll have a proposal from Jack Aiken then. Restrooms, we've been having a series of meetings this week to deal with homeless issues in our restrooms just out here. The port has sustained a lot of damage, and it's detracting from paid customers' use and enjoyment of the facility. So we met with SOS yesterday, we met with Helping Hands and the police chief today, and we've been kind of vetting and thinking about the best way to deal with this issue. And our concern is to be compassionate and not to offset the problem to somebody else, and to be a good neighbor to the business community. But keeping all these values together is proven a little challenging. So we'll come up with a solution soon, and I'm just confident about that. We had a campground meeting in the office last night, and I'm pleased to announce that myself and the camp host had a great meeting. We didn't get too much attention, but we'll keep trying to pull people in. We want to get a working group. I know there's a lot of, I don't know what the right word is, there's unhappiness with the campground. I want to get people in. People love the campground, but they complain about it a lot. So we want to hear the complaints in my office and see what we can address in the office. Coming up, I just want to kind of telegraph where we're going. The next agenda, next week we'll have next commission meeting, we'll have an invitation to join the South Coast Poets Coalition, and I'll be writing about that in the coming weeks, and the benefits to us. We'll start to introduce dredging and some of the issues surrounding dredging, and some of the ideas that have been floated about what to do with the spoils and how to do this economically. And Commissioner Dumont's observations about the state of the dredging through the year, and the boat basin scouring itself annually is a real important point, and something that we brought up with the engineer. So those concerns were heard and acknowledged by the engineer. And we were able to verify that through the bathymetric. The surveys have shown that as well. You're not seeing huge accumulations, they're getting washed out. So the big issue will be the executive session on the Wilbur property. And we'll have a memo out to the commission by March 1st. So you'll have a couple weeks to digest that. That will be our due diligence and findings of fact about that property, and then you can decide to go forward or not on that. So don't know which way that's going to go yet, but we're really working hard to get that memo completed. We'll also have an update on, we sent out for an appraisal on the Rhodey, I don't really know what to call it, the Rhodey sewage property.
Riverfront?
Riverfront property sounds better. That's out for appraisal. We'll have that by March 1st. So there may be multiple items to discuss at the executive session on March 17th. We've been talking about doing some layouts to the table here. We'll see some change next week. Hopefully we'll have a better configuration of the room. So we'll see. Dean and I spent a long time today talking about the best way to lay out this table, so we don't have backs to the camera and people are facing the audience, and you've got the commission. I'd like to have the commission staff involved in the meetings directly, so we'll figure that out and when you walk in next week, you'll see a big change. Next month. Well, maybe next week too, if you come early. So that's it. That's what I've got, and it's been a good 3 weeks. Happy to be here.
Good.
Thanks.
Can I ask one question?
Yes, you may.
The Qualman appraisal, was that done for the city or for us? I seen a Qualman appraisal,
The Quellman appraisal was what, the city hired Quellman to appraise that riverfront property.
Okay, I didn't know if that was done on our behalf or.
No, we hired.
That was the previous appraisal
Okay.
that the city hired.
We pulled somebody in from Eugene who's well qualified, somebody not from the community, well qualified to appraise both properties.
Any other questions from the manager?
What are we gonna do about the minutes and all of the books and all this stuff? Did you make a comment?
Okay, yeah. Okay, so, I know that there's been a lot of, unhappiness with the iPods. So we'll produce we'll send out a PDF, to your email address. We can, if you wanna do it to your personal email and get back the iPods, you can do that. But we'll send out a PDF of the minutes. We'll have them available in the office. When you come in, they'll be in a book, and so you get paper copies and we're off a book. And so you'll have paper from now on.
So it'll be like a 3-ring notebook we can
Three-
refer back for the year?
Well, I wasn't considering,
Well, no, going forward.
well, I wasn't considering doing it historically.
Oh,
I was just per meeting.
okay.
So
But we
that's,
can do that as well, we can.
You know,
set
I'd
a-
kinda like, yes, I would like that. I'd like you to consider that anyway.
Sure.
I'd like to be able to look back at last month with a tab on it that says the May meeting or the April meeting or whatever and see what's in it. If we're sitting here talking and if we're gonna slowly do away or completely do away with these, I'd kinda like to be able to do that historically, have the data.
These are really
It's a good
better
idea.
for email though than our own computers.
I'm not taking away the iPods. If you wanna use them, that's great. If you don't wanna use them, this is the alternative.
And the email's fine, but it is kinda, if we're gonna do the paper, I just would like to have each month in it from whenever the first month you start going forward.
That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. We'll do that. My only concern is that the folders get too big.
We don't have that much paperwork, to be honest with you, unless you're on.
Well, I'm gonna pay for everybody.
Well, let's start and see how it works.
The minutes of record will still be
Everything will still be in
no,
here.
Recorded.
the recorded minutes of record.
We haven't had,
Right,
yeah.
Right, we will have a disc
Yeah.
for the recording.
So you just can put all the paper, you know, the agenda and, you know, the financial.
The
statements and that kind of
resolutions.
Stuff, and the resolutions in the notebook portion, and we got it right in front of us instead of trying to figure out whether we can connect or not connect, whatever the case may be.
Let me ask one question. We can do it either, every commissioner gets the whole book, or we maybe can compile a historical book, as one archive.
I want it
Okay,
all. I
right.
wanna be able to
Right,
go
that's
back,
fine.
that's what I want. Or
That's
I
fine.
mean, that's what I would like to see.
Yep.
I'd like to be able to turn back last month and look at something.
That's fine.
Any other discussion? Okay, I'm gonna adjourn the meeting at 7:38. Thank everybody for coming.